And welcome, folks, to the Not Mike and Mike Show. My name is Brian Nelson. I am not Mike. And join with me, as always, is my co-host, Mike McLeod. He is Mike. And today we're going to talk to you about both football and playoff baseball, update you on our Not Reality League entering Week 5, as well as break down the AL matchups and the NL. But let's talk football to start out with. We'll go over our roster moves for Week 5. Mike, you had 6 teams because of the bye week, and you're going to have to drop a team. Which team did you end up dropping?
I'm going to drop Miami. They're playing Tennessee this week, which is a pretty good matchup, but I think that you just can't be too confident in Miami ever. So of the 6 teams that I had, I'm just too unwilling to give up the Panthers yet. But if they continue to be awful, then you might have a new team that you can pick up next week.
Yeah, maybe. I like to make my roster moves, and I'm going to make 2 more this week with me dropping the Dallas Cowboys, who are facing a tough Cincinnati Bengals team, who are coming. I believe they played Thursday Night Football last week against the Jets, so they're going to have a long week going into this matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to pick up the Philadelphia Eagles, who are coming off of a bye week and facing the Detroit Lions. I like that timing, getting Zach Ertz back for the up-and-coming starting quarterback Carson Wentz. And Wentz will
I like him.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job of really setting the tone for the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles, as well as I have the Seattle Seahawks as one of my teams, and they're on bye this week. So I'm picking up the Baltimore Ravens against their matchup against the team from Washington. So that wraps up our moves. Let's get into our most confident, least confident matchups. Mike, who do you have as your most confident matchup?
It's actually the team I picked up last week, the Minnesota Vikings, over the Houston Texans. The Texans without J.J. Watt for this foreseeable future. And Mike Zimmer's defense continues to really impress me. And you've seen each and every week top offenses and top quarterbacks look dumb against this defense. And Terrence Newman, 38 years old, continued to chug along, filling in spots, playing a really decent role at 38 years old. So they're supposed to win by 7. They're at home. It's cold in Minnesota.
They got a nice new stadium as well.
Oh, yeah, it looks nice, too.
Yeah, it looks state-of-the-art, all the nice frills, the nice open windows. But what's with the restaurant in the middle of like the players' walkway? Remember when Adrian Peterson got hurt at home and they had to make him limp through a restaurant in order to get him to the back locker room? I think they need a little changing of the plans.
Just make the visitors walkway that one.
Yeah, and then they can get heckled and get stuff thrown at them.
Perfect. I've solved the entire problem.
All right, so now let's shift over to my most confident matchups. The only thing I am confident in, folks, is that I'm going to go 3-2. 4 weeks so far, I've gone 3-2 each and every week. So I'm going to pick my 3 matchups in which I think I'm going to win. New England against Cleveland. New England against Cleveland. Tom Brady is coming back from his 4-game suspension. Should provide that offensive punch that they need to get their leader back, especially after being shut out against Buffalo Bills.
Rob Gronkowski could actually catch a pass.
Yeah, Mike's fantasy team would very much appreciate that and get more than 1 point in a fantasy league.
I'd like to actually play 9 players.
And so Tom Brady coming back should do wonders for the Patriots. I also like my 2 roster moves with Philly over Detroit and Baltimore over Washington. All right, Mike, let's go over some of your other matchups before we get to your least confident one.
Yeah, so I actually managed to snag 5 teams playing at home this week. So everybody's at home, so that gives me an advantage right off the bat. So after Minnesota, we have Pittsburgh playing the Jets. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 9 interceptions in 2 weeks. I don't expect him to do much better against a high-powered offense that got Le'Veon Bell back last week and put up 43 points on the Chiefs, which has a decent defense. So look, this is the team that I was expecting to see going into the year. This is why I picked Pittsburgh to win the Super Bowl because they just have too big of an offense. Easy win over the Jets. Oakland over San Diego. Really impressive start by Oakland so far. 3-0 on the road, 3-1 overall. Dropped a game at Atlanta, which at the time you went, wow, how do you lose to Atlanta? But Atlanta looks good. 300 yards by Julio Jones.
A little PTSD from your matchup last week.
But they're playing a San Diego squad that has given up 2 leads of over 14 points. Drew Brees doing Drew Brees things.
And Phillip Rivers doing Phillip Rivers things.
Exactly.
He's perpetually down for having to drive the length of the field. That's a line I stole from the Dan Le Batard show, but it's so true. Wherever you tune in Phillip Rivers in the fourth quarter, he's always down for, has to drive the length of the field. He has Danny Woodhead, doesn't have Danny Woodhead anymore, which makes his life even more difficult. Now he has Melvin Gordon to throw to.
And that's why they lose. And then Green Bay over the Giants. Green Bay coming off a bye week. They're 2-1. They're nice and healthy. The Giants just got shellacked by the Vikings in prime time, and Odell Beckham Jr. has been everybody's headline for the last week. It's kind of annoying at this point. I really don't care what he does when he's on the sidelines. I just want him to catch the football, and I don't think he's going to do it very much this week.
But he's not having fun anymore, Mike.
Neither am I.
Perform if he's not having fun?
I'm not having fun either.
He's a professional athlete, but he's not having fun, though.
Yeah, I mean, do I look like I'm having fun?
I hope you're having fun here at the Not Mike and Mike show.
You're right. I'm having a ton of fun.
So let's go over, and you're up in our league. You should be having a lot more enjoyment
Listen, man.
out of this league than me.
There's no difference between us other than the one game in week 1, and then it's been 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. And then we're going to get to our baseball next segment. And we have basically the same predictions there. So,
well, I'll get to my 2 that I think I'm going to be pretty hesitant about in this upcoming week. Atlanta, you talked about how good Atlanta has been on offense. They faced one of the best defenses in the league, Denver. And Denver, they lost Trevor Siemian partway through their last game. And they have Paxton Lynch fill in. And that revolving door at quarterback is still an issue with Denver.
Because they put up 27 points in Trevor Siemian's absence.
If Atlanta doesn't have really the defense to exploit it, so it's really strength on strength, weakness on weakness. It's just kind of one of those coin flip games, which kind of worry me. And the way my trend is going, those coin flips are going against me.
I think you'll win that one.
Thank you, Mike. Hopefully I can win that one. That means I'm going to lose Baltimore against Washington.
You're welcome.
Arizona and San Francisco playing as we film here on Thursday Night Football. No Carson Palmer, out with a concussion, and Drew Stanton, which I'm surprised. He has a winning record as a starting quarterback. Did you know he's 7-5 as a starter? Drew Stanton.
Drew Stanton's the truth, man.
I hope he's the truth this week, because if he can't beat the lowly 49ers, the Arizona Cardinals will have gone 1-4 as my top pick.
Speaking of top picks and going 1-4, the Panthers are my least confident matchup, and they play Tampa Bay and famous Jameis and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I thought were going to be like 9-7 and maybe make the playoffs, and then they ran into the Vikings and they didn't look good. They didn't play the Vikings, did they? Did they?
I wasn't listening.
There you go.
Great support.
So, Panthers, hopefully they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. They are in Carolina. But I wouldn't be surprised because the Panthers suck. So
I'll take your word for it that you had some solid analysis there. Because I was thinking about this outro as we have wrapped up our football talk on Week 5. And when we come back, we'll discuss the AL playoffs and pick our winners. So come back.
If you have an interest in a career in sports broadcasting,
whether it's behind the scenes or on camera,
then this is the class for you.
Class is held every Wednesday from 1:30 to 4:30 in room 121 alongside the library building.
For more information, contact Greg Poff. That's me at solano.edu.
we hope to see you here next semester. And remember,
it's more than just sports. It's an education.
And welcome back to the Not Mike and Mike show. We are going to break down the AL first in our breakdown of the MLB playoffs, as the first 2 games are underway here on this Thursday that we're filming. Mm-hmm. 1 game in the can as Toronto defeated
the Texas Rangers.
Yes, they did. And I was at speech practice, and I did not know that game was played first.
10-1. The Blue Jays over the Rangers. Bases clearing triple by Troy Tulowitzki during a 5-run third inning, topped off at the end of the night with a 3-run jack from Jose Bautista.
I hope he bat flipped, and
I hope he did.
I hope he did something to Odor as he was rounding first and give him a little.
No, I mean when you're up 10-1, you don't. That speaks for itself. You don't have to.
Do you think the Rangers have a puncher's chance in this series? All right, let's go to my AL predictions from back in April, and kind of see where we went right and where we went wrong. Just like that sentence. I started with the Royals as my top team. Really, injuries derailed the Kansas City Royals team, allowed the Cleveland Indians to sneak in there. Blue Jays number 2 to win the division, Rangers number 3, and then I had the Astros and the Tigers as my 2 wildcard teams. Really, the Astros didn't live up to any sort of expectations. I thought Carlos Correa could have been an MVP candidate. Really, Jose Altuve was that AL MVP candidate for the Astros, and the Tigers really underperformed late down the stretch and could not get to sneak into the playoffs there. It ultimately was the Orioles and the Blue Jays. Now let's go to your picks, Mike, of the AL. Now, Mike, you had 2 different predictions. We're going with our second of those AL predictions.
Because I remember at one point I said that the Houston Astros were a 90-win team. So I also had the Royals at the top of the list, and then the Blue Jays, the Rangers, and the Tigers. But for the guy who wears a Red Sox hat every single episode that we do, he didn't choose the Boston Red Sox to go to the playoffs. I did. And they're losing 5-3 currently at 7-11 at night during the 5th inning. Then Cleveland has runners on second and third with 1 out. So that is exactly where we are. You can literally watch the game and timestamp where we are. So I don't know. Got most of them right. 3 and 2.
Yeah, 3 and 2. So that's over 50% for me, I believe. No, you had the 3 right with the Blue Jays and the Rangers, and I only had the Blue Jays, Rangers.
I had the Red Sox.
Yes, and you had the Red Sox on top of it. So let's go to the actual standings. And of course, as we've broken down for you, the Rangers played the Blue Jays to that 10-1 victory. Indians currently lead the Red Sox as the Jays in an extra inning battle against the Orioles. What do you think of the whole controversy with Zach Britton and saying not to use your closer there in that winner-take-all situation?
I mean, we saw the next time, the very next day, during the Giants game, you saw the all-star closer come out and then a 3-run homer by Connor Gillespie. So, I mean, I guess the whole notion is like you can't end a battle with your best bullet still in the chamber. Even if he only gets you 2 innings, I'd rather have Ubaldo in the 14th than the 11th, especially with runners at first and third with less than 2 outs. That sounds like a closer's dream. And you got a guy that has allowed one run in since August.
April 30th.
April 30th.
Was the last time since April 30th he allowed 1 run, and he has a .54 ERA. But
Buck Showalter, everybody.
Yeah, Buck Showalter decided to go with Ubaldo Jimenez, and I think that is as telling as anything as to question the decision making.
If he's not fired, I don't know who will be.
Yeah, and ultimately, the Jays picked up off the momentum of that wild card and carried it into Texas, and obviously those 2 teams faced last year in the playoffs, and that's going to be a very interesting series with, I think, a lot of escalations. Over under 1.5 benches clearing incidents in that series.
I don't know, but I'm thinking that the Rangers will end up getting knocked out.
Okay, I actually think the Rangers, before the game started, I picked the Rangers to go on to beat the Blue Jays. I just thought that their offense from top to bottom, I thought the Jonathan Lucroy pickup was really crucial for the Rangers to really solidify the depth of that lineup. And they got Carlos Gomez from the Astros, who severely underperformed in Houston, but since he's gotten there, has seen an uptick in his offensive production. But you still have, you talked about Ian Desmond making the mistake in the outfield. That shortstop conversion to the outfield, really tricky. And
he ran like a shortstop that converted to an outfielder.
Yeah, and
wouldn't run into the wall. He literally 2 outs, bases loaded, and he's running after the Tulowitzki triple, and he holds up before the wall.
Yeah, and the Rangers are used to outfielders taking a little wonky path to try and catch some fly balls, a la the Cardinals from a few years back with Nelson Cruz, which I was alluding to.
Okay, gotcha. See, I didn't watch sports back then.
All right, and so the other matchup...
And my knocked out reference just went completely over your head after you did the whole puncher's chance thing. You got to pay attention to these things, not just pay attention to what you're saying. You got to listen to me sometimes.
Great chemistry here on the Not Mike and Mike show. Let's go to the other matchup. I'm obviously going to be a homer, and I'm going to pick the Red Sox to still win, even though they're down right now against Cleveland. The one thing that always concerned me was the pitching, and Rick Porcello, he far exceeded expectations in the regular season.
22-game winner.
22-game winner. Never thought I'd say that in my life, but we've never seen him in the playoffs perform as... We've never seen him in the regular season perform that well. So I can't expect him to do that well in the playoffs.
Have we ever even seen him in the playoffs?
I mean, the Tigers made the playoffs a couple different times when he was
true.
with them. But also David Price, under the radar, has really struggled since his rookie year in the playoffs, especially as a starter. He really excelled as the closer for the Rays when they made their run back in the mid-2000s. But as a starter,
sometimes
really
I forget
shaky.
that like players have been different positions before. Like especially with pitchers, I see them as a starting pitcher and I go, yep, that's a starting pitcher. He came in and he was a starting pitcher.
Like Adam Wainwright closed for the Cardinals during one of their seasons, and Jonathan Papelbon was a starter before he was a closer with the Red Sox. I think even if they lose to the Indians, they have the offensive firepower. The Indians lost one of their starting pitchers. I'm not sure if it was Salazar or Carrasco. They're all kind of interchangeable to me. If you're not Kluber or Tomlin, Indians don't really scare me too much as a Red Sox fan.
That's fair. I'm going to go the same route. I like Big Papi to just lead the team. I think we'll get a little bit more into it when we go to the NL, but there's a lot of like destiny going on. There's a lot of things that need to happen in order for the world to remain right, all needing to happen, and they can't. So David Ortiz, he probably won't get a ring, but he'll lead them past the first round here, the quarterfinals. If you're watching at home and you like baseball, then you hate me right now. You pretty much broke it down.
And so let's talk about our matchups then. You have the Blue Jays against the Red Sox. Who do you think will advance to the World Series out of those two teams?
The Boston Red Sox. I like it. I think eventually Toronto always implodes on itself, and it's just not right to have a Canadian team be one of the last two teams to win a World Series. Because it's the World Series, I get that, but it's the United States.
It'd be like the NHL not having Canada teams in the playoffs. Oh, wait, that just happened.
For the first time since 1977.
And so I agree with you. I have a different matchup, obviously, with the Texas Rangers, but really their strength is the offense. And in a 7-game series where you're playing at Fenway and Arlington, can you really count against that potent Boston Red Sox offense with Xander Bogaerts, my boy Mookie Betts, who's
now he's your boy.
Yes,
okay,
and Jackie Bradley Jr., and of course Big Papi leading the way, as well as Dustin Pedroia. I like the Red Sox chances in that ballpark, and the pitching doesn't scare me. Hamels is okay. Darvish
Hamels got shellacked today.
Yeah, Hamels, after this performance, makes me only hope the Rangers get as far as they can possibly get outside of going to the World Series. And so we both had the Red Sox coming out of the AL. During our predictions, we both had the Blue Jays coming out of the AL, so we stay AL East, but you get some support with my team.
You're really good at talking. And like last week when you got convinced to choose against your will, so did I. So Boston Red Sox winning the World Series. No, I'm just kidding. They're not winning the World Series. They're getting to the World Series.
When we come back, we will see who will win the World Series, but first we'll discuss who will be coming out of the NL, and then we will project our World Series winners for this upcoming postseason, so don't go anywhere. And welcome back, folks, to the Not Mike and Mike show. We are going to talk about the NL and break down the matchups for this upcoming postseason. But first, let's go to our predictions we made earlier in the year. For me, back in April, I had the Cubs as my number 1 seed, and they absolutely lived up to expectations. Over 100 wins and a tie.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, with the Pirates.
There's no tying in baseball.
See, that pun I got.
Thank you.
Good
That's
job,
because
Tom Hanks.
I said it earlier, and I
had
let you know.
I had time to process the pun, and then
You can't
I got
improv
to
up here.
Look up
You
my
gotta-
phone.
You gotta let them know every step of the way.
All right, and my number 2 team were the Mets. I thought with their pitching, you can't really expect injuries to happen, and that's really what curtailed their season from winning the division, in my opinion. With Harvey out, DeGrom out, that's 2 big arms, and even Steven Matz to some degree as a 4th starter. A lot of people had to take on extra roles with that starting pitching. I thought they would be the 2 seed. San Francisco Giants, I thought were going to win the NL West, and up until the All-Star break, it looked like a pretty good pick.
They were tied with the Cubs, and it looked like they were going to run away with it.
And then my wild card matchup was going to be the Cardinals and the Dodgers, just 2 perennial, consistent teams. Dodgers fans wouldn't like that matchup with their history against the Cardinals.
Yeah, congratulations to the Dodgers for finally eliminating the St. Louis Cardinals from playoff contention, and it only took getting swept by your National League West rival.
So now let's look at Mike's picks and see how they differentiate from mine. And boom,
They don't.
1 team difference.
Yeah.
Instead of the Dodgers, you being your cynical Giants fan could not bring yourself to get the Dodgers into the playoffs. So you
And
picked the
I
Pirates.
really thought that the Pirates were going to be the same as they were last year, but they got no H. So they didn't do well.
Pittsburgh, California, that is a typo on my part. So
But it's fine. They didn't live up to expectations, and they didn't finish the season well. And so obviously they didn't get in. And I think that if the Giants had kept their end of the bargain and continued to do well through August and September, they had a lot of games against the Dodgers. And I know the Dodgers still won a lot of games, and the Pirates weren't even anywhere close to being in it. But maybe you have the Cardinals and the Mets instead of the Dodgers and the Mets, or the Giants and the Mets.
all right, so now let's look to who actually made it into the NL and see how we differed from the actual projections. We got the Cubs right. We both had the Mets and the Giants in. I had the Dodgers in, and then the Washington Nationals.
I
were
hate
team
the Washington Nationals so much.
that both of us really ignored. Yeah, I
really
share that
hate-
feeling.
I really hate Bryce Harper. I really can't stand him.
Is it the hair?
It's the hair. It's the anger that you shouldn't feel for the game of baseball. Everybody, when I think of baseball, I think of everybody just having a great time, and he's just so fired up for no reason, good or bad. He hits a home run and he looks exactly the same, like he just struck out 4 times.
Yeah, I don't know if Bryce Harper has fun anymore. I just feel like
He's like OBJ.
Yeah.
He's the OBJ of baseball.
that's just all he knows, and it's the same intensity throughout. So-
When I think of baseball, I think of people like Mike Trout who just don't do anything and that just do really well. And Mike Trout is the Dave Casper of baseball. Just run a post, okay, but just do your job and then go back to the dugout and sulk because you play on the Angels.
But man, let's talk about the NL wild card. Your Giants really pulled out a real pitcher's duel between Noah Syndergaard
Man,
and
he's the
Madbum.
truth.
Yeah.
Noah Syndergaard is incredible. And how old is he? 20 something?
I'm probably older. I know I'm older than him. That's all I know.
And he's kind of old, actually.
But to put it in perspective, Madison Bumgarner is only 6 months older than me.
There you go.
That doesn't make sense to me. We're 2 different species. That shouldn't make any sense that we're both human beings and we're 6 months apart.
Yeah.
The things that could have been, if I was 6'5" and born in Hickory, North Carolina, tending to farm.
I mean, listen, if you were 6'5", your life would be in a much different position
It would
than it
be.
is now.
Oh, man.
I'm 6'5", and I only got to hear through sheer height.
There we go. But what can you say about Connor Gillespie being the hero? That's the most Giants sentence ever. That Connor Gillespie hits a 3-run home run in the top of the 9th to put them into the next round of the playoffs.
I mean, it's just It's even year magic, man. I hate it, and I hate that people think it's like a real thing, but at this point, I guess it is. Like, the Giants just have so much confidence getting into the postseason in an even year, and then Madison Bumgarner, perception is reality. And you saw in the first 3 innings, Madison Bumgarner only had to throw 21 pitches because they said they wanted to get after him early. And so they just swung at everything, and a lot of them could have been kind of hittable, but they just made his job a lot easier, and that ended up being 7 innings for Noah Syndergaard and a complete game shutout for Madison Bumgarner. And that's what happens. You get this idea in your head that Madison Bumgarner is the most difficult pitcher to hit, and there's no way we're going to get a hit off of him, so let's try to get him early before he gets into a groove. And you start thinking that he's better than he is, and he's pretty good.
Yeah. And really, we've seen Bumgarner give up big first innings, and I think that's really what the Mets tried to do in the wild card game, and only facing 7 pitches in, I believe, the first 2 or 3 innings. They each had 7, 8 pitches.
It was 21 through 3, whatever that combination was.
Yeah, I think it was 7-7-7 breakdown of the pitch count. So what do you think about the momentum going into their matchup with the 100-win plus team Cardinals Cubs?
It's the even year magic versus the this is our year magic. And like I said, there's a lot of destiny going on because you got 3 teams that all need something to happen for their world to be correct. And only one of them can happen. So I think, and I said it at the beginning of the year, when you have that momentum from the wild card game, you usually end up winning that first round matchup. You saw it all 2 years that the Giants were in that wild card, in 2012 and 2014. They came back and they won the World Series because of it. And then you saw what happened with the Royals. They win in dramatic fashion against the A's, and they go on to the World Series. And then you have the Blue Jays this year win in extra innings, and it's high profile and high emotion, and you go on to the next one and you beat them 10-1 because the Rangers haven't played a meaningful game since September 15th.
That's a good point. And so I think the matchups is going to be very interesting with Bumgarner going in Game 3, supposedly, because he pitched that wild card game. He's going to be lined up against Jake Arrieta for the Cubs.
But listen, so you split in Chicago. You have Johnny Cueto, who's been lights out. I hated Johnny Cueto. I still remember Johnny Cueto from the Reds dropping the ball. I thought of his time with the Royals as a mirage and something that couldn't be repeated, and he came out and he proved me wrong. And so you got him in Game 1.
But he's going up against John Lester, who's coming off the NL Pitcher of the Month, 5-0 with an ERA under 1.
And you can run on him. He has a mental block about throwing to first base. So you have a guy that just, if you get on, it's a double.
Just don't have Pagan bunt. We've seen that he has some issues there. That's true.
But then you have Justin Martin in Game 2, maybe you lose that game. But if you're 1-1, then you have Mad Bum in Game 3 in a hornet's nest that's going to be AT&T Park. Jake Arrieta, he's great, but it's not the same stage, right? Like it's still Madison Bumgarner that you're going against, and I just got done saying that he has this reputation that precedes him. So if you're Jake Arrieta, I know you're great and you are a Cy Young winner and you think you're hot stuff, but in the back of your head going, man, I got to be even better because I'm playing against the best postseason pitcher of this generation.
Yeah, and Arrieta really, after last year, he was so dominant, but midway through this season, he became very ordinary, became very hittable, and he's already dropped down to the 3rd spot for the Cubs. They obviously get to set the rotation any way they want. Hendricks led the NL in ERA. And that's going to be a very tough matchup for the Giants, I think, in that 2nd spot for either Samardzija or Moore to match up with Hendricks. Excuse me. I think for my bold prediction, ready for this? Madison Bumgarner is going to pitch Game 5
on 3 days rest.
3 days rest.
God.
Against the Cubs. and that will.
I don't think it gets to a game 5. I think it's Giants in 4.
Okay, I'm gonna say Cubs. I'm gonna say Cubs in 4, just to be opposite and to prove just what flip-floppers we are. My winner of the World Series back in April was the San Francisco Giants. His winner was the Chicago Cubs. So now let's look at the other matchup in the NL.
Who even cares about them?
Yeah, Dodgers and Nationals.
It's Dodgers and Nationals. The Nationals are the Nationals, and it's well documented our hatred of them. And then on the other side of it, it's the Dodgers, and Clayton Kershaw is the Dan Marino of this generation. So, and we have Poff back there, diehard Dodgers fan. He hates me right now. But hopefully we see some better games. I really don't care who comes out of this matchup because I think they're going to lose to whoever comes out of the Cubs-Giants matchup. But for consistency's sake, I'll say the Dodgers over the Nationals.
Okay, I would agree with you on that one. I think Steven Strasburg being out for the Nationals is a big loss for them. And really, I think pitching is so crucial in the postseason that Max Scherzer, yes, he's your ace, but what is after him? Like Tanner Roark? Gio Gonzalez, who's in Gio Gonzalez anymore. Tyson Ross's little brother is like one of the those pitchers for the Nationals, and Daniel Murphy has a strained buttocks. Like that's just a storyline not built for success. That the postseason hero for the Mets last year is coming back from a strained buttocks to put you into the next round. No, that's not going to happen for the Nationals.
And when the Dodgers went out and they got Rich Hill, I think that really solidified their rotation a little bit more. So like you allude to, once it goes past Kershaw, Scherzer, then you have Rich Hill potentially as your number 2 starter.
Kenta Maeda as your third.
And that could win you 3 ball games.
And I think that's enough against the Nationals to put the Dodgers in front. But we have the Cubs and the Dodgers, and obviously the Giants and the Dodgers in the next round. You obviously like the Giants, as you said. Yeah. Is there any extra analysis you want to put on that one?
Madison Bumgarner.
Versus Clayton Kershaw.
Versus whoever.
And I really think the Cubs have shown themselves to be the most consistent NL team this year. I think 1 through 4, they have 4 really solid starters. Didn't even talk about John Lackey, who's still, even as he aged, has proved to be really big in the postseason. So I think the Cubs' rotation is just a little too deep in a 7-game series. I think in a 5-game series, the Dodgers have good enough starting pitching. 7 is where I think it starts getting a little thin. Who's that 4th, 5th starter?
Do you think about just making it a 3-man rotation and have Kershaw pitch like 1, 4, 7?
Yeah, that would be the most ideal situation for the Dodgers. But then you got to think if Kershaw is maybe in his own head a little bit about his postseason.
Maybe he got some yips. I don't know. We can only hope.
You can only hope. So we have the Red Sox and the Giants and the Cubs and the Red Sox on my side. Who do you got as your World Series winner?
Madison Bumgarner. No, I'm going to take the Giants over the Red Sox. I think that'll be fun because that's a matchup we haven't seen yet. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. We've already talked about these two teams at length. Hopefully it goes 7, but knowing the Giants, it might go 4 or 5. It remains to be seen.
And for me, the Cubs and the Red Sox make for interesting storylines. Obviously, 2 teams who are historically cursed. You both have Theo Epstein in your background with the Red Sox, obviously being the GM of that turnaround. And I'm going to stay homer, and I'm going to pick the Red Sox over the Cubs. The Cubs are the Cubs, and ultimately they will Cubs it up in some sort of fashion.
If you have to go to the game and catch the foul ball yourself.
I will Bartman. I will lay on that sword, and I'll be a hero in Boston instead of a goat. And the Cubs, who did their goat because it's cursed. And so the Red Sox are going to win the World Series over the Cubs. I don't care how many
You
games.
changed your name. Yes. Brian Homer.
And so, no real surprises here as you picked the Giants, I picked the Red Sox.
I didn't mean it to be this way. It didn't have to end this way.
But it did. We are the Simpsons. Couple of homers here on the Not Mike and Mike show. We've talked about football. We've talked about the AL and the NL. And to no one's surprise, we picked both of our favorite teams to win the World Series. So come back next week and join us for all the fun here on the Not Mike and Mike Show.